Hi, welcome back to our channel. I'm Bianca, I'm one of the bosses, and welcome here. If you're new, we do videos on parenting, marriage, home, and faith, and how to grow into Jesus wants us to be. So if that's what you're into, please subscribe and become part of our family, grow with us, and we would love to have you here, honestly. So today I'm going to tell you about my birth story. So first off, I thought in the beginning this would be my redemptive birth story of how I could do a VBAC, vaginal delivery after a C-section. Like I wanted to do it like the typical crunchy YouTube mama in a birth tub at home, without intervention, without pain. That was what my dream was. Quickly, obviously, I found out that VBACs are not allowed to be home births in South Africa, or at least in Bloemfontein where we live. So VBACs are not allowed to be home births. Then I found a birthing center who said they will do a VBAC, but I need a gynecologist to sign off on that. Now, I know from, first of all, past experience and just talking to other moms that my gynae, where I was with Laura, is C-section prone and really almost has, he doesn't have no vaginal births, but he does not do lots of them. He mostly always does a C-section. With Laura, the reason I had was, in my personal unmedical opinion, not worth it. I could have waited. It was not an emergency. It was not a medical problem. And at that time, I was like scared and talked into having a C-section, and really like thought that her life was in danger, which was not the case at all. She was not in danger, I was not in danger, and I wish that I would have done more research. However, we did pray about it a lot, and we did feel a lot of peace then with the decision to do a C-section. And felt that it would be the safer, better choice, and that was the plan. So then the birth center told me that I had to get the gynae to sign off, and I knew for a fact that my gynae would not. Yet I still asked him, and he almost lost his temper, and said that if the center allows it, then he's gonna take on that center. Like, clearly he does not like the birth center that I mentioned. I'm not gonna give names or anything, and please, I'm not saying that gynae is that gynae. He is extremely good. His reputation is very good. He was an excellent doctor. He is an excellent doctor. And I would not recommend him. He was a very good doctor. I just knew he wouldn't give me a chance to do a VBAC. So we decided to move to a different doctor, which we also figured out was he is extremely expensive and asks way more than our medical aid, and our fee that we had to pay out of pocket add on to the medical aid fee was very high, and the birth with Laura was very, very expensive. So then we moved to a new doctor. She is a woman, and she actually just quoted what the medical aid allows, so we never had to pay anything extra, except when our MSA, our savings, daily savings, ran out. Then we had to obviously started to pay for the sessions. So that she was way cheaper. Her the birth was also completely covered by the medical aid, and we did not have an add-on fee at all. And actually, the birth itself was less than half of the add-on payment that we had to pay with Laura, which is saying a lot 4 years later. So, so we moved, and she said that she's not keen on doing a VBAC, especially because it's the same group of doctors and they all have to work together, meaning that if she's not there and I go into labor, then one of the other doctors, which might be my old doctor, might do my birth and they will not allow a VBAC. But if everything is great, if the weight is perfect, and less than a certain amount, if I go into labor before a certain day, if they have a lot of ifs, a lot, then she would consider a VBAC. They're very scared of uterine rupture, which according to Mr. Google is like 0.01% of people that get a uterine rupture. However, in the hospital, I spoke to the nurses a little bit, and uterine ruptures happened in the last 3 months in that hospital, and more earlier this year, which was that does not sound like 0.01% of women. That sounds like a lot. I don't know, but anyway, there's that. So that is what I wanted. So then I figured out, okay, so then she said yes, maybe a VBAC. No, definitely not. A center must be in hospital, must be controlled. And the only other doctor that would perhaps give me a VBAC and perhaps let me go to this center, because this doctor is closely connected to the center, is not covered by my medical aid and also extremely expensive. So that was not an option, because if I had to get an emergency C-section, then how would I pay that? It's just too much money. So we sticked with this new woman doctor, and she is an amazing doctor, and I will recommend her very long. She's amazing. Okay, so that was the idea. Then I decided, okay, you can do this, but then I started praying for obviously having a VBAC, and I wanted to do it without any interruptions, and I wanted to be against the hospital policy and not lie on my back. I did not want to labor on my back. I did not want to get an epidural. I did not want to have a catheter in, because then you have to lay on your back. I wanted to be able to move, and I knew that was not the hospital policy, and that is not how they do things. But I also just decided my God is bigger than that, and if he feels that that is part of my story, then that is what I'm praying for, and I'm praying for that, and I'm declaring that that's what I want. And even if I don't get that, I'm not going to blame God. It's just not part of his plan. So his will above my will. Okay, that's how I prayed. But I earnestly desired and was very hopeful for getting this. And it was going good until 38 weeks. And then she said no. And I felt like my world came crashing down. And I did feel like she was not being fair, because there was a death recently at the hospital for uterine rupture, and there was a whole MSM meeting, and she was still upset about it, and I felt like her reasons was not enough reasons in the emotional state that I was. So first off, she kept mentioning uterine rupture, uterine rupture. And I was like, how would you know if you don't give me a chance? And then the baby's too big. And I was like, I literally told her, don't give me that. A baby is too big is never a reason for a C-section. My body was built to birth, and I don't care how big this baby is. And then she was like, okay, fine, let's just look at your uterus, let's see what's going on. So she looked at my cervix, and my cervix was not dropping, meaning getting ready for labor. Okay, this is 38 weeks now. At 34 weeks, the baby already started dropping into my pelvis. At the 38-week checkup, the baby was not dropped anymore. The baby moved back. He was still head down, but he was much higher than he was at 36 weeks. So the baby did not drop, which was a big no-no for a VBAC. They really say that a baby has to drop by 38 weeks. And again, I was like fighting this because I know of so many babies, research and word of mouth, that only dropped while being in labor and never dropped before that. And a lot of babies only drop like after 41 weeks. So I was like, baby dropping is not a good enough reason for me. Like, it's just not a good enough reason. And I was still fighting at this point for getting a VBAC, or just at least trying. That was my whole argument. Just let me try up until my 40-week date. If not, then I'll accept it. But let me try at least. If it goes into an emergency C-section, fine. If there's problems later, fine. If the baby doesn't come before 40 weeks, fine. Okay? But I was like, just give me a chance. And then she looked at my uterine wall, and there was a space on the sonar. This is going to be a very long video, so please bear with me. This is my whole, I'll do 2 parts. Birth story part 1, okay? And then birth story part 2. I'll do the actual process situation. This video, I'm just going to explain how it came to my birth being what it was. Alright. So on the sonar, there was like a place that was just black. And I don't know if you know a sonar, but it's like black with white blurs everywhere. And then there was just like a black spot. On my C-section, my previous C-section space on my right hand side. And she was like, do I see that? I was like, yes, I see it. It's like a little black spot. Like, what? It's so small. And she said, that means the muscle already opened and thinned out there. Meaning, if there's muscle everywhere in the uterus to keep it strong, and there's this space that has no muscle, if I get contractions, that's where it will tear and I will get a uterine rupture. And because there's a space that has no muscles, that's a very dangerous situation and a very high probability that I will rupture. And then I was like, okay, fine, but then you can just monitor me during birth. I'll give up the no monitoring hope and just monitor me throughout the birth. Make sure I have a sonar on throughout the birth. Do it that way. Just monitor me. And this is where the doctor really got frustrated with me and my stubbornness. And so basically she said that this is very dangerous, and paraphrasing here, not trying to like anyone into trouble, but basically that the fact that I could obviously die from a uterine rupture, my baby could die from a uterine rupture, and we need to get a C-section. We need to get this baby out before that starts to tear, because if it tears into a vein, then I'm going to have internal bleeding, and she's not going to know until it's too late, and I'm not going to know to go to the hospital until it's too late if that happens. So we need to get this baby out via C-section. And then I was like, okay, so you can do my C-section on 40 weeks. That's fine. Keep the date that we booked at the hospital, like pre-booked, to get the authorization for the birth. Then we can do the C-section, and I'll just pray that the baby comes out before then. She got so mad at me, like so mad. And she was like, what the hell is wrong with you? You are not listening to me. I am not waiting until 40 weeks. So then she booked, I was there the Friday, and she booked my C-section for the next week and Thursday. And she was like, she's not going to wait until 40 weeks, which is just like the next Thursday. She wants to do it then, which is then 39 weeks, 2 days, I think. She wants to do it then. That's when she does her C-sections on Thursdays, Wednesdays or Thursdays. So that's when she has the opening. She's going to do it that Thursday, and she booked it. And later I was thinking, if it is such an emergency that my baby could die, because she basically told me that I can't go and push this, because if I have a uterine rupture, obviously I go into risk of having a stillbirth, which is, in my opinion, a little extreme to say. But I felt afterwards, so in the moment I was like, I have no fight left. I'm mad. I am sad. I have been fighting to get this VBAC for 38 weeks now. I've been fighting everyone around me, and I felt like the only person truly supporting that decision was my husband, and I just kind of gave up on fighting. And my sister-in-law also supported me very well with that, but I was just like, no one thinks that this is a possibility. No one wants to give me a chance to try to do what my body was built to do, and I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to say, and I just gave up. And I was like, okay, fine. Getting emotional. It's fine. Just book the C-section. And then I asked her. So obviously afterward, I thought, like, if this is really such an emergency, why wait another week? Why not do it today? Why not do it right now? Why not take me in for an emergency? Why wait another week if this is such a scary situation? So that was confusing to me. And I did try to get in with a specialist, a uterine specialist, for a second opinion, but they could not help me without a referral from my doctor. Firstly, I knew my doctor would not give me a referral. Secondly, I knew her office was already closed, so I wouldn't get one in time. And thirdly, I did not want to like upset my doctor further if she actually had to do my C-section, you know. She was already mad at me for fighting and being stubborn and trying to not do the C-section. Because then I dared ask her, but what if I go into labor before then? So she said, if I go into labor before the C-section, I have to come into the hospital with like early labor stage immediately. If my water breaks, I go immediately. If my contractions start, I don't wait for them to become closer, I go in immediately, because I have to be monitored. And then I can decide whether I want to put me and my baby in danger and go through with this birth, or just do the C-section immediately. Now you can understand that I was extremely angry, especially with like another doctor trying to scare me into doing this. I was very angry. I was very sad. I was disappointed, and I was feeling very angry toward God. Like, seriously? I thought this is going to be my redemptive birth story. I thought I could get what I was dreaming for since my first pregnancy. I thought, and I knew that if I do a second C-section, I would never get another chance to do a vaginal birth. And like my sister-in-law, I really need to get her in for an interview on here one day. She had the most amazing birth story, and I wanted that too. And I was just upset. I was extremely upset. I'm not angry at God or my doctor anymore. I just had to feel that. I had to work through all the emotions, and I am still sad. I am very sad at the fact that I'm never gonna experience that or have that story. But I don't need to have that story. I don't need to have that story just because I'm on YouTube. I don't need to have that story just to testify how amazing God is, because God is amazing no matter what my story is. I don't need it. I want it, but I don't need it. If a C-section is the safest option, then that's how it is. So I still continued to pray for a VBAC, and I continued to pray for the birth to happen beforehand. So it was on the Sunday I started getting contractions. The Sunday before. My C-section was Thursday, right? So booked for the Thursday. The Sunday beforehand I got contractions, that Sunday evening. And I was doing everything to keep the contractions. Obviously I didn't go to the hospital because, again, I'm stubborn. And I'm like, I can be the odd one out. So I had contractions very off and on. Durations differed probably for 4 hours. I had contractions, and I was just on the birth ball for those 4 hours, and I was just like doing everything I can, every movement I knew, to just progress this and keep it going. And after like hour 4, we just went to bed, and the contractions stopped. And I was like, okay, so this is not happening. And it just never came back. And Thursday morning at 6:30, we left for the C-section. And yes, so in part 2 I'll explain everything that happened from the C-section, how it was done step by step, everything that happened, and I will also tell you what my doctor said afterwards, after the C-section. And yeah, so that's my first story, part 1 of how we decided to do a C-section, or decided. Anyway, so that's what happened, and that's how I did not get the birth that I wanted and desired and prayed for. However, the story is not over, and I still saw God in my birth, and I will tell you all about that in part 2. So if you're still here, please say hi in the comments so I can just thank you for listening to my very long emotional story. And remember to subscribe. I'll see you in the next one and the next part of the birth story. Thanks for growing with us. Bye.